Jerry Mallory for SB Nation and PrivateTrade.com, live from Private Trade Studios, aka my apartment. I stood out in the snow for a long time. I've thawed out, ready to give you more Lions news, views, and opinion. We're talking about Ndamukong Suh today. We're going to sprinkle another free agent name, and we're going to talk a little bit about the draft. Since I've been gone, not to quote a Kelly Clarkson song, but since I've been gone, we have a new coach. He's hired someone named Lombardi. That has to be good. I'll say this about Jim Caldwell. I remember him. My thoughts about him was always being a statue, if you will. It just seemed like when he was the coach for the Colts, that Peyton Manning ran the show, and he was, yes, that statue on the sideline, just standing there. Well, looks can be deceiving. He was very prepared in his interview. His press conference was impressive, and he's putting together a staff of young guys, and they're really focusing on helping Stafford. He has my thumbs up of approval so far. We'll have to wait and see. But now, moving on to Suh, we have a conundrum. That's right, we have a dilemma. As we know, Ndamukong Suh, if we do nothing, he makes $22 million this year. That can't happen. We have to re-sign him to a big deal, possibly trade him. We certainly don't want to let him walk in 2 years. So let's look at a couple of those options. Now, the one I just mentioned, you let him walk. You have this, and this is the worst one, okay? He makes $22 million this year. That just screws your cap all the way up. Then the next year, he's gone. You get nothing for this Hall of Fame bound. His trajectory is in the Hall of Fame yellow jacket area. You get nothing for him. And of all the accolades and things he did, unless, we win a Super Bowl or go to the championship round next year, you didn't get a big return on this superstar. Now, second option is to trade. If you trade him, you have to stockpile and get a lot of picks, several number ones. It has to be a RG3 type deal, a Tony Dorsett type of deal, at which point you save a ton of money, you acquire picks, and, if our drafts or anything like 2013, our picks can be valuable. So adding more only helps out. But the most realistic one, the one I think I'm leaning toward, a lot of you are leaning toward, is re-signing. So what's it going to cost? Well, we look at defensive tackles, the biggest and the best. You got your Haloti Nadas, you got your Geno Atkins. Geno, he's the newest member of the Big Money Defensive Tackles Club. He signed a deal annually worth $11 million a year. Well, 1 year removed, you have to consider inflation. As time goes, people make more money. Yes, even from one season to the next. Hey, just look at minimum wage. It's now going up to $10 an hour. I remember when I was making minimum wage back in 1999, my summer school job, I made $5.15 an hour, and I was very proud of it. Well, it's doubled. And yes, in 1 year, the price tag for a defensive tackle, it won't double, but it will go up. Add to the fact that Suh, Geno Atkins is good. Suh is deemed better. He has more Pro Bowls. He has more sacks. He's deemed to be a little bit better. So I'm hoping he can make somewhere in the range of 13 to 13.5 million. It's a hefty price tag for a defensive tackle. But what I will say is this, which helps me swallow this huge deal a little bit better. I just swallowed the deal. What helps me swallow that deal a little bit better is not looking at Suh as a defensive tackle. Because when you do that, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like, man, $13 million for a defensive tackle is too much money. Look at it as a defensive lineman. Your best defensive linemen, typically because of what they can produce, are your defensive ends. Your Julius Peppers from years ago signed that big fat deal with the Bears. Charles Johnson and Michael Johnson. Jared Allen signed that monstrous deal with the Minnesota Vikings. Well, Ndamukong Suh provides very similar results. Now, you won't get as many sacks when it comes to quarterback hits, hurries, pressures, knockdowns. His value is right up there with the best defensive ends in the league. So, the best defensive ends in the league make about 17, 16 million a year. Your top defensive tackle in the league makes about 11 a year. Split the difference. I'm no mathematician. That's like 14 million a year. So we can get him to sign a deal annually at 13 million a year. From what you're getting, it's a lot, but you have to accept it. Now, the conundrum is the fact that you have Calvin and you have Stafford. Now, for the record, there aren't a lot of quarterback receiver duos that are combined making about 33 million a year. In fact, there are none. Because generally, the guys that make the 20 million, those big top gun quarterbacks, well, a lot of times they make the receivers better. We're not accusing Stafford of not making his receivers better, but so far, Calvin has really been the one that shined, and we know that Calvin's talent speaks for itself. But the fact that you have Stafford and the Suh contract if it happens. And Calvin means the following. You have to have a lot more drafts like 2013, meaning you have to have direct impact from rookies, second-year players, third-year players. That means you don't have to pay them yet, but they're giving you top value, bang for the buck. Larry Warford, top 5 guard in the NFL. Well, he played one last year. He's not making top 5 money. Riley Reef, solid left tackle. Left tackles make a lot of money. He's not making a lot of money. Good draft choice. Joseph Fourier, undrafted, 7-8 touchdowns. We need production like this from these players, and we have to draft good because if you got Stafford, you got Suh, you got Kevin. That's it. You're not signing any more big free agents. Probably not even a lot of mid-level guys. Those $8-9 million type of dollar deals, similar to like a Deshaun Jackson or Matt Forte. You're not doing that. You're going to have those top-heavy guys at 17.5 a year, at 16.25 a year, and at 13 a year. And then you're going to drop down to 7, maybe a $7 million guy, $6 million guy. It's a huge gap. But if you draft good, so crazy, it could possibly work. So that's my 2 cents on that. The draft really quick. Don't draft a cornerback in round 1. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm not enamored with any of these guys. Plus, I think with a healthy Chris Houston, Darius Slay in his 2nd year, Bill Bentley in his 3rd year, Jonte Green, I think these guys have a good thing going. We need safety more than anything. I wouldn't be mad if Clinton Dix was the guy there. Obviously, receiver would be the number 1 choice, but there are other needs. If your top 2 receivers are gone, maybe it's Mike Evans and Sammy Watkins who are naming as your top 2. That means probably Anthony Barr, Khalil Mack has fallen. Terrell Austin's scheme, we need that hybrid linebacker defensive end, which is why I mentioned Brian Arakpo a couple of episodes ago as needing that defensive end outside linebacker. Just a few thoughts on the draft. We'll have plenty more to talk about in the future. Last but not least, I sprinkled Brian Arakpo on the last video as a free agent target. He may be too expensive. We don't know. The next guy I'm going to sprinkle is Jeremy Maclin. You can never have enough receivers. Yeah, we may draft one. He might not be number 2 potential until the 5th or 6th game of the season. But even if he is, Jeremy Maclin is the guy I go after. Mayhew wanted to draft him supposedly back when he was a rookie. Was it 2008? The Matthew Stafford draft. He was picked 1 pick before ours, and we drafted Brandon Pettigrew. Jeremy Maclin, he will probably be on a 1, let's stop that from shaking. He'll probably be on a 1 to 2 year show me type of contract. He's had medical issues. He's had health and injury issues. Very talented, but he'll sign a 1 to 2 year deal more than likely to prove that he's worth more. Insert the Detroit Lions. He would fit good. And just look at the Green Bay Packers. A few years back, they had Donald Driver, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings. I mean, James Jones. You can't have enough good receivers. So draft a guy, bring in Jeremy Maclin, a healthy Nate Burleson. Let's throw the ball all around with Mr. Lombardi calling the plays, or at least running the offense. So that's going to do it, guys. I'll be back in a couple of days to talk about what else? The Detroit Lions. Subscribe. Keep watching. I want to thank each and every one of you. Until next time, this has been Jerry Mallory for SB Nation and PrideDetroit.com.